Hey friend, welcome to Healthy with Heather Brown. If you don't know where to start with balancing being healthy and loving the life you already have, I got you, friend. And yes, of course, we're still going to enjoy some Chick-fil-A. I'm here to come alongside you and encourage you to fall more in love with your creator, your spouse, your kids, and your own health journey. We'll talk about how to let your good things grow until they become daily habits, with the occasional dad joke and point of view from my Yankee hubby, Eric. Don't stress. Let's hop on this hot mess express together. So join me, Heather Brown, as we unpack what it looks like to live a life well loved. Welcome back to the second part of my conversation with Lindsey Maestas. If you missed last week's episode, it is phenomenal. So make sure you go listen to last week's episode. I'll link it in the show notes in case you missed it, or just go back to your podcast platform, scroll back to the last episode of Healthy with Heather Brown to listen to it. But we really dove deep into mental health and talked about suicidal thoughts. We talked about depression. We talked about what it looks like to be postpartum and struggling. And this week, hey-o, yes, we're going there. We're talking about mental health and intimacy with our spouses. So let's dive right in. We talked about facilitating healthier conversations around intimacy and marriage and how to build good communication. And we were just about to dive into postpartum sex. Don't feel like, let's get it on after your 6-week appointment and checkup. You're not alone, friend. So if you haven't listened to part 1 yet, please hit pause here and go listen to it. And then if you're all caught up, just grab your coffee and let's get right back into my conversation with Lindsey. So one thing I do want to ask you next is I think all moms listening can relate to when we're going through all the postpartum changes. You're struggling with nursing, sleepless nights, healing from a C-section scar. For instance, I talked about I had a 4th-degree tear. Whatever your case is, the idea of feeling sexy again can be just really overwhelming and almost feel foreign, maybe. Especially if you're dealing with anxiety or depression on top of that. Do you mind just speaking to some healthy ways to communicate with your partner about how you're feeling and maybe how you guys journeyed that out?
I think in postpartum and in the seasons of mental health struggles, they both tie together in that you don't feel like yourself. You don't feel like you want to be intimate. You don't feel like you are sexy. Like I've shared before, there were moments after having my first kid where I think for a year, I would hide myself from Jesse if I was in the shower and he would come in. And somebody very lovingly told me, Lindsey, you're stealing from your husband. This is a gift. He's never made comments about you. That's your own insecurity. But you have to navigate that because it's stealing from your intimacy and from him. So I think that there's a level of obedience in that, where scripture says that your body is your husband's, his body is yours. Sometimes I believe that obedience comes first and then emotions or feelings come after. And that's a lot of my life. I don't feel like reading my Bible, but I'm going to do it anyway because I know that it draws me closer to Jesus, and then the emotions follow. And it's the same with intimacy. I would say I was so imperfect in that. And even to be totally honest, Zoloft hurts your sex drive.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So that's been something I've been navigating a lot too. And it really comes down to intentionality and knowing. And that's one of the reasons we did the Sex and Intimacy Project, is because knowing the actual impact that sex has on a marriage, the depth that it carries, especially for a man, and the need for it in order to bond emotionally. When you have that understanding, it's not just going in and being like, okay, I want to get sex over with, or I want to get this done. It's no, I notice that when I am intimate, I am far closer to my spouse. We have deeper emotional conversations. We have more affection during the day that my boys can see. And
I agree with that.
It shifts you, you feel closer. And sometimes you don't feel like doing it, but when you do it, you don't usually regret doing it because you have this euphoria, maybe not always, but that's also part of Sex and Intimacy Project, is knowing each other's bodies and teaching you how to make sure you're satisfying your partner. But I think that it comes with accountability, telling a friend that you trust or a counselor so that they can help navigate that. Because just saying, I'm not doing this, I don't feel like it, you really are damaging your relationship. Scripture says that you're allowing the enemy to have a hold in your marriage when you're denying sex.
Woo, I'm that'll preach. Yikes.
It does. You're saying, hey, come on in. Affairs, temptation, pornography, emotional affairs, all those things begin to happen because you're losing that connection with your spouse slowly. And it doesn't justify any of that sin, but it's just to say it seeps in slowly. And so it's intentionality, it's obedience sometimes. And it's also caring for yourself in a way that you do feel confident. Like I was noticing, man, we moved to Nashville. I love food. I love eating out. I've gained more weight than ever.
We do have good Southern food. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. Like I've just been enjoying myself too much, which is fine. But I got to a point where I was like, no, I'm like not wanting him to see me again, or I'm not wanting to wear cute outfits. And okay, so it's time to shift something. Like I need to start taking care of myself. So I'm changing my habits and I'm working out every day. And I'm doing those things because I know what gets me to that point. And putting on self tanner like always does it for me. So I'm whatever it is that makes you feel good and confident and is important. But also, I'll say lastly, asking your spouse to praise the things that you struggle with, and not in a way that feels forced, but to say, hey, communicating. Your spouse can't read your mind. What are the things that you battle? Like say small chest size or flat butt, whatever it is. Like,
right.
I struggle with that and I need to feel sexy. Can you praise either the things that you do see that are good in me that help to build up my confidence, or just help me overcome that insecurity? And a lot of that is going to be between you and Jesus. But essentially, when you tell your spouse, like, I need to hear from you, I need to hear from you during sex. So like, what are you thinking? What are your thoughts? Because that really helps to not feel like, oh my gosh, is he thinking I look fat? Is he seeing my stomach rolls? Is he, like to hear him being like, you look beautiful. Oh my gosh, you're amazing, whatever, to speak that out. But then also on normal days when you're in your PJs, like, tell me when you think I look beautiful, because it really does help to increase that connection.
Absolutely. I love all that advice. And I completely agree with that. I have so many questions now because, well, first of all, I just have a lot of questions that I know our readers want to hear. And I actually even asked, I dropped the question sticker box and I was like, I'm getting ready to interview Lindsey. If y'all have questions, like pop them in. So I'm going to almost like rapid fire a few of those with you. And then I'll go back to some of the ones that I selfishly wanted.
Okay.
The readers want to know.
Sounds fun to me.
So exactly. First one, rapid fire. Do y'all schedule sex? I'm in the young kids stage.
Yes. Okay. We did. We don't so much anymore, but yes, we did. And people always say, oh my gosh, it is so unromantic to schedule sex. But what is more unromantic? To not have sex or to schedule your sex? To not have sex. Like that's lesser option. So it is better to just schedule it. I say to people, you really can't put a timeline on it. It depends on your personalities. I recently interviewed somebody who did it every single day because it was to avoid struggle in the husband's life. And they both committed to that.
Sure.
That is not me. I think that like 2 times a week, 3 times a week, like whatever feels right for your marriage is wonderful, but come together and make that a plan. And it doesn't always have to be at night. I am like the biggest advocate of morning sex because nobody has touched you yet. Like your body, the sensory, the stimulation, it really is just tenfold. But then also you haven't had time to eat, so you don't feel sluggish. Like you're just in your prime and you're already together. So wake up a little bit early, set an alarm before the kids and make time for that. Or if the kids are at school or watching a TV show, like be quiet, but like lock your door. And
there you go.
Make time. Like you really do. You have to make time just like you make time for anything else.
Yes, agree. Next question, again, because I'm trying to rapid fire. Ask her anything. I am too scared to Google it. And then she says, quote unquote, the science of orgasms might be interesting. So obviously you could probably talk for 45 minutes on that alone, but maybe could you just give us in like a 3-sentence or like one small paragraph wrap up of like, is there anything you're like, I just wish every woman knew from this standpoint, the science of orgasms?
The clitoris has more nerves than the tip of the penis. So if you are not enjoying sex, something is off.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing is to teach your spouse and to show them what feels good to you, which may take a little exploration. But if you are willing to show them, it's very important. And we talk about this in the Sex and Intimacy Project, but actual intercourse, a lot of men don't know that the inside walls of the vagina do not have a pleasure center, just the walls. So that is not something that feels good for a woman. The clitoris almost 80% of the time needs to be stimulated for orgasm.
Y'all, if you've ever looked up and saw it was 5 o'clock and didn't know what the heck you were going to put in front of your kids for dinner, girl, I feel that. Same here. I used to frantically open up my pantry and freezer just looking for whatever I could throw together. Somehow, I landed a job at a meal planning company and I had to figure it all out. I was taught by the #1 meal planning company in the nation how to write meal plans that are time effective, cost effective, and to help get dinner on the table, period. Over the years, I perfected a system that also makes it healthy. So if you don't know where to start and you feel like you're busting your budget and never know what to eat to be healthy or get your kids to eat it, I've written a comprehensive guide for you and your family. This guide is your quick fix to getting food on the table that's healthy, affordable, and your kids will actually eat. Through simple hacks, tips, worksheets, and more, the ebook speaks to the heart of busy mamas trying to save money, save time, and eat healthy while cultivating special family moments around the table amidst the chaos. With tons of printables, recipes, and shopping ideas, plus my step-by-step strategy that holds your hand as you set up your own meal plan, you will learn how to shop your pantry and plan in the right order. This book has already been a game changer for so many. So visit www.mylifewellloved.com/ebook to grab yours now and use code PODCAST to get 15% off. I had no idea that fact about the clitoris versus the penis. That's crazy. Okay.
You should enjoy it more than men, is the truth.
apparently. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier. Say a mom's 6-week appointment is come and gone, but she's still not feeling ready to have sexy time again. What are some tips for her and her husband to work together slowly and just like not feel like all this pressure of like the day hits and like it's go time? Like, how do you kind of coach women through that?
Don't do it. Don't do it. I went in at my 6th week and they told me, you're ready. And I said, I can't even walk properly. Like I had torn a lot as well. And that's crazy. Like if you you had a baby come out of you. So
right.
For me, I'm like, don't do it. Give yourself time and you communicate to your husband in advance, especially if you're not pregnant yet, or if you're pregnant now, that is a very, very small guideline. But I will say there are plenty of other things that you can do in the meantime. You can do, if you're comfortable with oral sex, like you can do oral sex, hands, touching, kissing. I mean, it doesn't always have to lead to orgasm either. I think that that's a really big misconception. Sometimes if it doesn't, it makes you long for it more like the next day. You're like, oh, okay.
That's
now
a good
I've been thinking about it all day
right.
because it wasn't fully satisfied. And that's something that actually has really worked like in our marriage, not something all the time, but it's nice to like desire your spouse and to think of them. I mean, there's so many more ways to be intimate and to express that. But like as a woman, if you feel like you want to serve your husband and just let them know like, hey, it's not the time right now for me. Give yourself grace and time. Like it is trauma to your body. So allow yourself to feel comfortable. And it doesn't always feel good the first few times either. It can be really painful actually. So go slowly and do what feels right for you.
Yes, love that. Okay. What are your tips for women who are struggling to feel confident in their body during pregnancy, nursing, postpartum, and then just as a busy mom in general? You talked about movement earlier, which I'm really big on. For me, that's huge.
I think that's the biggest thing is like making sure you're doing something, because I know when I had one day where I went, this is so gross. I'm confessing. Okay.
I love it. Come on.
I was like 9 months pregnant and I went to McDonald's and then I went to Taco Bell. And then I went to like Wiener Schnitzel, which I don't think I've ever eaten at. And I picked up from each place what I was craving. And I went and nobody was home, so nobody could judge me. I turned on my favorite TV show and I just ate. However,
that's amazing.
It was the best day of my life. But if you're doing that all the time, and this can be in any capacity, like if you're just sitting on the couch and that's because that made me feel disgusting after, right?
Sure.
Like it was great, but it made me feel gross. If you're doing what makes you feel disgusting, you need to change. And Atomic Habits is one of the best books I've ever read. And it talks about the 1% shifts in your life where you are going on an upward trajectory of 1%, which means like, if it means putting your yoga mat on the floor every day and not even getting on it, you're making a 1% shift toward health. Okay. And then you take another 1%. It's not the 0 to 100 massive changes, especially when you're pregnant. There's only so much that you can do. But if you're acknowledging that you're doing something that makes you feel like you're not confident, do something else. And usually a walk or 2 a day is obviously very good for the baby, very good for you, and can just help you to get out of that negative mindset. At the same time, pregnancy can just make you feel horrible as a whole.
Facts.
It's rough.
Yeah.
So I think that this comes to a place where you really need to have compassion and understanding in your marriage and build upon that and call your spouse up to compassion when you're just not feeling it. But again, the obedience factor comes into to where you have to know that your spouse may love your body. Like my husband loved my body pregnant. I felt yuck. Oh my gosh, I felt so bad. I had all kinds of issues and I was huge. And so, but he liked it. And so again, why are we stealing from him if it is something that he enjoys? So I would say, yes, movement, caring for yourself, doing things that make you feel good, but also having the emotional intelligence within the marriage and the emotional conversation to make sure you're both on the same page.
Yes, I love this so much. One thing that you talked about, Lindsey, a little bit on your Instagram recently was about how one of your sons, your older son, is struggling, I think, with asthma. And so I'd love to hear a little bit because sometimes I feel like it's almost like the mental load. It's almost like because your mental health is poor, and then like you add on that one more thing, like you get sick or your spouse gets sick or, your kid has an asthma outbreak. Like, how have you guys dealt with that? And what have been like your best tips to kind of like regroup after you've had a season of sickness or a season of trauma?
It's just heavy because he has severe asthma. And the best way I can tell anybody who doesn't understand it is it's like having an episode of RSV, like every couple weeks, to where he's not breathing. His lungs are pulling it, like his rib cage is pulling in, and he's can't sleep. Nobody sleeps, So I always say, like, I don't feel like I have permission to talk about it as much because people have it so much worse with kids with cancer, tumor, but it does affect our lives. It affects us very much. I think that, gosh, we've come out of that recently. Like we've had so much sickness the past 2 months, and it definitely disconnects. Like there's moments where it connects us because we're both so scared and we're both so like genuinely traumatized and just praying on our faces for God to take this from our son. And I think in those moments, it brings us together, but it can also be kind of disconnecting, at least for me, because I live in that anxiety. And so I come to bed at a time where maybe normally I would pursue intimacy or like want to cuddle. I just want to decompress and not be touched. And I don't know how to describe it fully, but that's probably one of the hardest things for me because as a mama, and I mean, even my husband feels the same, like he carries the weight so heavily too. And I think that as a mom, I just would do anything to take it from him and protect him. And so when I can't, it's like I just want to isolate. So I probably am not the person to speak to that. And I mean, I share this just with vulnerability because, again, like I said, it's my mess and there's nothing perfect. Like we teach sex and intimacy, but that is a moment where it's hard. And I think that there are moments, like I said, where it can bond you and where we'll be like wearing our hearts on our sleeves, like within intimacy, and we're just like broken together. And I think that can be really sweet. But I go back to the place of compassion and understanding to where sometimes that emotional and spiritual intimacy, like praying together and reading together and like seeking God together and having those really deep conversations about like, gosh, I didn't expect my life to look like this. Like I never would have wanted his life to look like this. How do we move forward? Like that bonds you maybe more than any sexual intimacy could in that moment. So I think it's just knowing what you and your spouse need at that time and not forcing something that should happen while also just being intuitive of what your spouse needs. Because sometimes a man in his brokenness, like just wants his wife in that physical way. And it's not about sex in that moment. It's about connection for him. Like that's how he bonds with you, just as you do with face-to-face conversation.
That's such a good point. And I appreciate you sharing that because we have talked a lot about in this mental health season about how really like a lot of times your message does come from your mess. And so I actually think it's really cool you're willing to share a little bit about that, even though you're like, I don't know all the answers yet. I'm still figuring it out. So thank you for being willing to share that. And then I feel like I'm encroaching on your time, so I do want to be respectful. What is your advice to couples on keeping the romance and spark alive, like in the busyness of having little kids? I'm like, I don't want to cry about this, but it's like so heavy on my heart. It breaks my heart when Eric and I go on date nights and we share that on Instagram and women are like, I mean, I haven't been on a date night with my husband in 6 months or a year, or man, my oldest kid's 6. I don't think we've been on a date night in 7 years because we just haven't or we can't afford it. So to the woman that just is starting to feel isolated from her husband and distant and was like, I don't even know how to get back into intimacy in a way that I can enjoy. What are like little tangible steps that you guys advise for them to start to break down those barriers?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I love your compassion and empathy because I mean, that it's so common. And I think a lot of that is that the wife specifically doesn't feel prioritized or valued or seen. And like they're spent their life hustling for their kids and doing all these things. And then there's like maybe a mediocre thank you, if that. And not to say this is all couples, but it's the common theme in my DMs, at least.
Agree.
So I would say it starts really small. And the Wife Project from Roommates to Soulmates, that is like my heart with it. I say that it deepens your faith in such a way that it has no choice but to pour over out onto your marriage, because it has a 65-page workbook where you go through conversation starters, like marriage challenges, journaling pages to kind of assess why your marriage is where it is, but then also to give you the opportunity and like really practical ways to grow. Obviously, date nights is a really good start, but if you don't have the money to get a sitter, the amount of times Jesse and I put like a blanket on our floor and made our own chocolate covered strawberries or like a steak dinner and just sat on the floor together. It's such a good way. Like we play card games, we play Mario Kart. We will just like make our own really nice coffees, or like those are things that you can do, even if it's going for a walk. We have this couple behind us. They've been married for years and years. And every day I see them pass my window on a walk together.
Oh,
they have a special needs child, like, but they make that time for each other every day. It's those little things. And sometimes your spouse will be like, oh, I don't want to do that. Like that seems weird. And that's where you communicate, hey, I really need this. Like, this is something that I need in order to feel close to you. I pray and hope that most spouses would respond to that. So that would be number one. I think if you can afford a getaway, Jesse and I have a rule where we do one family trip a year and one couples getaway a year. And those are like some of the most reconnecting moments that we ever have, as our trips just together. I always say like a family trip is not called a vacation, because it is not a vacation. It's a family trip. But like I'm actually in the process, this is the first time I'm saying anything, but I'm in the process of making cards, like marriage cards. So there's going to be cards for conversation starters. There are going to be marriage challenge cards. The brand is called Oh Hey, like, oh, hey, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited for them. But things like that, just like little games, questionnaires with each other, fun. People really lose the fun when they have families and start talking about finances. It is so important to become best friends with your spouse again. And I have one whole teaching on that in the Wife Project, because that friendship is what bonds you when your kids eventually leave the house, when you're empty nesters and you're like, wait, what is this? Like, we've just been so child focused that we've lost everything that our marriage is. You need to get to a place where your friendship and marriage and passion is strong, because that is going to leave eventually. And that's why so many marriages end when kids leave the house. So have that fun, do spontaneous adventures together, make a little mason jar of popsicle sticks and write all of these fun date ideas down that you would normally never do, and make a rule. You pull the popsicle stick, you cannot change what that popsicle stick is. And I have lists of these date ideas that you can put on the popsicle stick on the Wife Project. But I think little things like that, like go to Goodwill and buy thrift outfits that for each other and make them wear it, and go eat at a fast food restaurant. Like, it's just little things that I think helps to break down those barriers that we so often build, where we don't want to express that vulnerability anymore. And we're unwilling to go there because it's almost like a business relationship. And if you are in that place, that's why I say from roommates to soulmates, like there is hope. And I've seen crazy cool redemption from people who are digging into scripture and what it calls you to be to your spouse, that helps you to break down those barriers.
Hi, friend. Are you enjoying this episode? Hit that plus sign in the top right of your Apple Podcast app, or the follow button in your Spotify app, or wherever you're listening. That way you automatically get each new episode without having to search for it. You're welcome. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that wisdom, Lindsey. That's really cool. It made me think about this. Have you heard the song Next Thing You Know?
I don't know.
It's a country song. Anyway, you've got to look it up. The guy talks about, it's really cute. It talks about like, next thing you know, there's a pregnancy test on the counter. Next thing you know.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Like your kids are playing in the yard. And it makes me think about that line where it says, next thing you know, your kids are grown and gone. You fall in love with your wife again. And it's just the best song. Anyway.
Yeah. I love that.
But I will link up all of Lindsey's resources, including her podcast, the Wife Project, the Sex Intimacy Project. Lindsey was just telling me before we started recording that she's actually working on a new YouTube channel. So do you want to share where all they can find you and all your web addresses and all the things?
Yeah. So on Instagram, I'm at Living Easy with Lindsey. TikTok is Jesse and Lindsey. And then YouTube is Lindsey Maestas 1. And she'll put it on there. I know the last name's hard, but I am actually starting a series of 5 things that are ruining your marriage and how to fix it. And I'm going to be really focused. Like I'm going to do vlogging and just show kind of mine and Jesse's life and fun challenges with us. Like we want to do one of those hot wing challenges from Hot Ones and answer Q&A questions. So I'm hoping for it to just be really lighthearted and fun, but with a focus on strengthening marriage and the friendship and the fun in your marriage.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, I'm going to ask you the last question, and I ask every guest that comes on the podcast this question. It is, what is your favorite thing in your health journey that's making you feel like yourself right now? And it can be anything that makes you feel like you.
I love Pilates.
Ooh.
I have never been a Pilates person. I've always done heavy weights or cardio, but I have started doing Pilates on YouTube. Like I literally just put it on my YouTube. I'll search Pilates. I love this girl. I think her name's Go with Chloe or something. And it just makes my body feel so different than it's ever like tighter, I guess, than it's ever felt. And it's also just very relaxing and calm and doesn't feel, I guess, like I'm exerting so much energy to where I just want to like collapse after. I just feel stronger. So I would say that has been really good for me. And then I'll add number 2 is going on walks while talking to a friend. That has been like, I'll just call a friend or Marco Polo a friend while I'm walking at night. And it's just been like, I mean, it's good for my body, good for my mind, and also just helps to be intentional with that connection with friendships that sometimes you lose. So I'll just call somebody and just whoever I choose that day and just chat for a while.
Oh, I love that. Okay, you just reminded me, one of my girlfriends has started going to a naturopath here in Birmingham that almost marries like regular medicine with naturopath practice.
Yeah.
And so I work out at Burn Boot Camp. I don't know if you're familiar or not. I know y'all have them because my friend goes to the one in Franklin, actually.
Oh, okay.
But I used to teach Pure Barre, which is a ballet bar based workout. It has Pilates, bar, yoga all in one. So I did that for a decade. Now I'm starting doing Burn. And this doctor she went to was like talking with her about why she might have lower libido. And I thought this was fascinating. She said that if you're doing really hard workouts, like, a Burn or what is it called where you do all the big dumbbells?
Oh, like CrossFit.
Yes, CrossFit. That's what I was looking for. That if you were doing that, she was like, in your body, when you're taxing it that much, like it doesn't know if you're running from a saber-toothed tiger, like from back in the day, from the stress level, or just doing a really hard workout. So internally, your body's just like, we ran from a saber-toothed tiger 5 times this week. He was like, it doesn't know that you're working out that hard to like, for a benefit. You know what I mean? So she was like, I actually would highly recommend that you start doing maybe hard workouts like that, like 3 to 4 times a week. And then maybe on the other days, you might want to do like your pelvic floor exercises or Pilates or yoga.
That's really cool. I've never heard that.
I hadn't either. And she said that for women, low libido is more about what's in your brain. And for men, it's less that. And so she was like, that actually can even help with your libido. And I was like, what? Like mind blowing. So cool. Right? So yeah. I'm like, the more you know.
Yeah, learn something new.
But anyway, Lindsey, thank you so much for joining us today. I had a blast talking with you, and I know the listeners can't wait either to hear all this. So it'll be great.
Yeah. Thanks, Heather. It was so nice chatting. I mean, I really appreciate you thinking of me, and I genuinely love conversations like this. Like, I just feel like I'm having coffee. So, and I hope you have fun in Nashville. If you could text me if you're here.
Yes.
See if I could see you.
I will. I would love that. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me and Lindsey today for this conversation. I am so thankful that she was willing to come on and share her wisdom about growing business and sexual health and mental health and just how you can find your message in your mess. We would love to hear from you guys. So if you will look us up on Instagram, give us both a follow and tell us maybe something that you learned from this episode or something that you want to do in your marriage this week to spice it up a little bit or just to get a little more intimate. We would love to hear that. Okay, y'all have a great day and go get sexy. If y'all think I'm a little crazy, just wait till my favorite guest joins me in the marriage corner. It's my hubby, Eric. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me.
Let's talk about...
I told Eric, it's your moment to shine.
Oh, man, I have been asking for this for so long. Heather's been teeing it up on her Instagram for questions.
That I have. Holy smokes.
How it relates to sexual health.
Yeah.
Having said that, I don't necessarily think we're going to go into too much depth in this marriage corner.
Well, mainly because Eric was like, well, no, we're doing a whole season about that, Heather. We're not just going to talk about it.
I'm not pushing for a 15-minute marriage corner on sexual health. I want a whole season.
Oh, gosh. We'll still see how that's going to pan out. I don't know.
This podcast is popular already, but I mean, the sexual health season, I mean, you're talking to the moon.
Number one.
Number one.
It's hilarious. So, Eric, I do want to ask you one question, though. So, Lindsey,
wow.
Eric's like, wow, what do you know?
Not expecting this.
Lindsey, that was just on the podcast episode with me, the name of one of her courses is something along the lines of, forgive me, Lindsey, if I butcher the exact title, but it's called From Roommates to Soulmates. So my question for you is, how do you feel like you and I, after, oh my gosh, 14 years of marriage in September? Wow. How do you feel like you and I stay out of the roommate scenario? Like, how do we fight against that and stay like connected?
I mean, I think I would be lying if I said that, sometimes we don't kind of go through patterns or lulls where I don't like to use the term roommates because I never view you like that. But there are times when we don't feel as close to each other.
That's true. Yes.
I think. And, it's what we always talk about, how important communication is and expectations and, just being willing to talk about how you're feeling about, how your relationship is, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, sexually, just to talk about that and be open about that. I know recently we've tried to be more intentional with getting off our phones, just those things that maybe you did when you were first dating, those little touches here or there, or, those little flirtatious text messages. Yeah, all those play a big role in our relationship and kind of avoiding that, I guess you'd call it, roommate type situation.
Yeah, for sure. Lindsey just posted a reel that said something along the lines of, this is the thing that you're probably doing at night that's secretly killing your marriage. And she was like, you don't want to hear this, but it's just like scrolling your phone. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I know we've tried to just put our phones down more recently. And it really is amazing. I try and put it over on our kitchen island, which is about 30 feet away, typically if we're on the couch. And yeah, just doing that small thing just makes you more intentional and plays a role in, I think, a healthier relationship.
Yeah. I will say too, I really appreciate that Eric has been more willing recently to watch shows with me at night where we both can enjoy it. He told me that because I've been watching shows that are more aimed towards him right now, he'll do me a solid and watch some kind of like chick flick or something next with me. But we really like watching Yellowstone together. I do have to cover my eyes at parts. And then Andor is what we're currently watching. The first 2 episodes, ladies, are real slow, but give it a chance. I promise. Stick with it. Is there anything else that we've watched semi-recently that people might appreciate hearing a show rack on?
Can't think of any off the top of my head, but sometimes it is difficult to find things you both like. But yeah, it's not always about that either.
Yeah. So. Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
Some of our friends are watching Blacklist. We kind of gave up on it after a few seasons. Eric gets bored easily with shows, but anyway.
Yeah, a lot of times they're very predictable.
That's what happens when you watch a lot of TV, babe. Just saying.
Well, it's kind of a little bit of an undercut.
No, I just mean from when you were growing up. Like, he's always like, can you tell what's coming up? And I'm like, no, babe, I'm not that smart. And I wasn't allowed to watch that much TV growing up.
That's true. Anyways, I do have another random question for our marriage corner, and this is kind of just complete 180. It's not related to what we just talked about, but I am still pushing for season 3, sexual health, healthy with Heather Brown.
Melanie, you can quit sweating. She literally messaged me on Instagram and was like, I'm already really nervous about how this is going to go. Eric talking about sex with us. Like, I just don't know. If I can listen, I'm going to feel too awkward. So you can quit sweating now, Melanie, until season 3.
Speaking of, Heather, what are your 3 favorite sexual positions?
Oh, gosh. And with that, we're going to go right on to the next question.
Oh, man, I'm kind of interested. But anyways, for season 3. Anyways, all right, this is completely different. But Heather's pretty red right now.
I am. Yes, I am. Did I just do a workout or is Eric talking about sex? Not sure.
All right. So sorry. This is one of my completely random questions. It's completely different from what we were just talking about. So what are things that people add to food or recipes that are overrated or unnecessary?
So many answers to this. My big thing is people just try to make everything too complicated. I am a big believer in simple cooking, which occasionally, I know Eric is actually a really good cook. We've talked about this. Eric is the better cook out of our duo, I would say. And so I really just appreciate a simplistic recipe. I want 7 ingredients or less. I want to be able to get in and out of the kitchen, and I want it to be a good meal, a healthy meal, and done. When people are like, you need to be mincing fresh garlic and also
that's
chopping
40 the minced garlic.
Ugh.
Now some people will probably be like, oh, you've got to mince the garlic. It's so much better when it's fresh. You know what? I'm getting a little jar of the minced garlic.
Yep.
I'm throwing that in there,
Yes.
People are like, oh, you can tell the difference. Anyways, I think it's unnecessary.
It is very unnecessary. And just like all the extra random spices, I'm like, it doesn't have to be Serrano chili pepper flakes from Madagascar. I mean, throw some red pepper in there. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, these people that are like actually extracting the vanilla beans like out of the little, whatever membrane or whatever. Like, nah, I'm going to get the imitation vanilla extract.
From Aldi.
From
it was
Aldi.
$1.49.
Yeah, come on, people. Let's not make this too complicated. Is there anything else specifically that you can think of that like a ton of people add or is unnecessary that you're like, it's unnecessary?
I feel certain you have a good answer for that, which is why you're pushing me on this. So I'm just going to let you answer. Mine is I cannot stand the minced garlic and the fresh ginger and the grating. It's just too much.
So I think my number one most overrated ingredient or add-on is anything truffle, like truffle oil, shaved truffles, which are super expensive. I'm not a fan of the flavor. And yeah, they're always trying to upsell you on the truffle.
They are
trying to make something fancy. Oh, French fries with truffle oil. Fries with truffles. No, I just want French fries.
Just plain and simple.
I just want that. Is that too much to ask? So
okay,
gosh.
but those duck fat. Where did we get those duck fat fries from? Those are real good.
That was at Juniper.
At Juniper in downtown Birmingham.
Yeah.
The duck fat fries were good, though. They
did not have truffle on them.
They didn't have truffle, but duck fat's pretty extra, just like truffle oil is.
That's true. I would think that's maybe the more underrated item. Like, I think people should fry things in duck fat all the time.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Interesting take. Okay.
Yeah. Another one I had, and this is something that may be a little controversial because I do love this condiment, but I do feel like a lot of people will just add it on at the end and try and make things a little bit more fancy, but sriracha sauce.
You love sriracha sauce.
I know I do. I love it.
Okay.
But still, I feel like it's a lazy way. You're just on some sushi like, oh, I'm going to make this a little fancy. I'm going to drizzle some sriracha on the top,
Yeah.
And just other times, I just feel like it got really popular really fast. And a lot of times you don't need it.
No, you just think it's overplayed. It's
a little overplayed.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I still love it.
Yeah, you do. He uses it on almost every meal, so I'm very surprised here that's in your answer.
I would say my last one is it's kind of like the unnecessary, but it's like that extra like add-on. So like an extra patty on a burger. Sometimes you don't need like that second patty, or if you're at Wendy's, you're getting the triple. You definitely don't need that third patty.
So
and
true.
there's a big thing with the meat to bun ratio as well too. You can't have too much meat compared to the bun. And usually, just one single patty does the trick.
That is true. I would agree with you on that. But you know what? Actually, you talking about this is making me realize I have one now that I didn't think about. You are not going to like this answer. Eric loves some mayo. I don't know if this is like a Midwestern thing. I feel like a lot of Southerners like it too. But I want light mayo, if any mayo at all.
The same.
Oh my gosh. It is way too much. It's like just extra fat and calories in my mind for like very minimal return. Like I want the taste of the mayo, just a little extra creaminess. I don't need like, I taste a tablespoon of mayonnaise in my mouth with this chicken salad.
The more mayonnaise, the better.
No,
and you know what? I don't want Miracle Whip, and I don't want these substitutes with mayonnaise like, mayonnaise with olive oil or low fat or mayonnaise or light mayonnaise. I don't want it. I want the full fat. I want Duke's. I want
Dukes. Wow.
I want these other off brands. I don't necessarily want Kraft.
What about Hellman's?
Hellman's works.
Yeah. My mom, Susan, is very into the Hellman's. Very brand loyal. You can't be veering from it. Yeah. Eric does hate Miracle Whip, though. He does talk about this often.
Even though I did grow up on Miracle Whip in the Midwest. I feel like more people like Miracle Whip in the Midwest than mayonnaise, but
maybe so. I feel like in the South, it's kind of like Hellman's or bust.
Who knows?
Maybe Duke's a little bit too. Anyway, yeah. You know what condiment I love that I feel like I've really picked up on in the past few, years?
No sugar added ketchup.
That is a new favorite of mine because I'm trying to control my sugar content. It's not that I think it tastes better.
I appreciate the
I know
effort
it's better for me.
But it just is not the same.
Also, I really like the Primal Kitchen mayonnaise. Don't you be hating on it because it's pure ingredients. It is real food.
I'm not going to hate. It is definitely healthier, but I want the Duke's mayonnaise.
I hear you. A purist over here.
This episode has not been sponsored by Duke's, Hellman's, or Primal Kitchen.
No, it is not.
It could be.
Yeah, I'm like, shout out. Give us a call. Primal Kitchen. We love you.
We love mayonnaise. Anything else you can think of?
Let's see. The mayonnaise we talked about. Primal Kitchen. The ketchup. You were hating on me for that. Oh, you didn't let me answer. Wickles. I really like Wickles.
Yeah.
That I would add them to almost every thing that I could. My chicken, a snack, a hamburger.
We're not talking about the most underrated add-ons. We're talking about the most overrated add-ons.
Okay, well, shout out Wickles. We also love you.
I agree. Very underrated. If you're able to get your hands on those, then I highly recommend you try them.
But I didn't know I picked up the dirty ones because they were on sale this week, and I about lit my mouth on fire. Eric was like, "What is the problem over there?"
You picked up the dirty pickles?
Eric, oh gosh, here we go. Back to
circle.
Here it comes. Wow.
All right, perfect.
Good job. I did just give him a high five for that corny,
nice.
I don't know, circle round.
Very spicy, dirty pickles.
Dirty dills. That's what it's
dirty
called,
dills,
isn't it?
That is what they're called.
So funny.
I think that's what the intro at the end of this description of this podcast, Marriage Corner with Eric and Dirty Dills.
That's cute. I like it. Okay, well, anything else you've got that you want to talk about as far as a condiment goes, or you feel good about it?
Not really. I feel like this Marriage Corner was all over the place, but I feel like that's kind of, part of our relationship.
Yeah.
I do love a good random question. I know you like it as well, too, so.
Part of the fun and possibly part of my undiagnosed ADD. We'll see.
Could be.
Okay, well, thanks, Eric, for joining us again in the Dirty Dill Marriage Corner. I am so glad. What?
Yeah, we need to get the Marriage Corner sponsored.
By the Dirty Dills?
That would be great.
That would be hilarious.
For season 3.
Perfect. Love it. Oh my gosh. So funny. Okay, you guys, we're so thankful that you
stuck with us. Thank
you through all of that. I hope you didn't feel too awkward. I'm doing the awkward turtle at the mic while we talked about dirty dills and sex and all the things. It was so much fun. I'm going to go try to drink some water and get less flush. I'm so red.
We're going to have to work on this if we're doing season 3.
We are. We really are. So anyway, we're going to clean it up, you guys. It's going to be great. All right. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you want to talk about next time. Leave us a question. We'd love to chat about it. Y'all have a awesome day. And make sure you're following me on Instagram over at Healthy with Heather Brown. Send me a DM and let me know on a scale of 1 to 10 how awkward you felt. Have a great day. Bye. Hey girl, hey! If you're loving the show, I would love to hear from you. Please be sure to go on over to your podcast app, scroll down to where it says ratings and reviews, and tell me your thoughts. It really does mean so much. Your words might just be what the next person needs to tune in and start living a healthier life from the inside out. Thanks!